Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Samuel. With me today, of course, is co-founder of the Gaggle, Peter Lavelle, and it is now time for our weekly joint live stream. And because of the complex time difference issues, whereby the United States moves their clock forward, the Europeans don't. They have to wait for 3 weeks, and the Russians are sitting pretty. And they never do anything with their clocks, which I
If
think is
if it's not broken, why try to fix it?
I
We
have no
gave up
idea.
on that like 15 years ago.
It's one of the stupidest things ever, and they've been talking about it for years to give up on this messing around with the clocks. But anyway, with that said, welcome everybody to the Gaggle, and as usual, please everybody put down that coffee pot, put down pencils, newspapers, whatever. You forget the New York Times for a while. It's now time for the live stream. So we some kind of interesting developments on the Iran front. Trump, who has declared this war, one Iran is defeated, is now planning a coalition of the willing, and as we'll see, the coalition of the willing seems to be quite
Unwilling.
well, it's certainly unwilling, but it's going beyond simply providing naval escort to the tankers in the Strait of Hormuz. So here was Trump yesterday aboard Air Force One, and so here's the. All right, all right, just a moment. Not quite there. Yes, that should do it. And now let's try. Yeah, here's Trump, as you can see.
So we have a lot of things to talk about, but there's not much I can say to you about it. So one of those little problems in life. We had some very good results today, as you probably heard, in Iran. Very strong results militarily. We're talking to countries about policing the straits because otherwise, we can get oil very little, 1%, 2%. China, as an example, gets about 90% of its oil from the Hormuz Strait, and nice to have other countries police that with us, and we'll help. We'll work with them militarily. As far as I'm concerned, we've essentially defeated Iran. I guess they can have a little bit of fight back, but not much. Not much. We've taken out their air force, as you know. We've taken out their navy.
Is he holding a begging bowl? Is that what he's holding there?
What was that?
Like a begging bowl. Okay.
Well, it is.
Where's the bombast? Where's the bombast? Oh.
Well,
I know
that's
I'm tough on you guys. I know I'm tough on you, but this is kind of important, please.
yes. It is a very there's something incongruous about, first of all, you're making all these declarations, and then you're demanding all this assistance. And this is all of this is, of course, quite odd, because only the other day he said to the British, Keir Starmer, that we don't need your assistance. Not that Starmer was actually offering it the assistance, but saying we don't need it. Too late, Keir. You should have been with us on day one. You weren't.
Yeah.
Now I need your assistance, but now apparently he does need two-tier Keir's assistance.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I know it's much diminished, George, but the UK does have something called the Navy. Okay, I think if Hungary wants to opt out and Slovenia, or no, let's say the Czech Republic, I can understand that. Okay,
Right.
And,
That's
and
right.
then of course the Spaniards, well, they were told to take a hike. Oh, maybe that was kind of a mistake. because they have to patrol the Straits of Gibraltar. They have these not that I'm saying it would work in the Straits of Hormuz, but they do have naval assets. Okay,
Yes,
so you
yes,
piss them off already.
yes, yes. But the interesting thing was that, as we'll see a little later, he's also getting quite menacing in his threats.
Well,
As far as
our
the
favorite
Europeans are
subject, NATO.
concerned.
NATO, our favorite subject. Yes.
Exactly, on NATO is going to quote, because he if there's one thing that is consistent with Trump, is that he really doesn't like NATO. He's never liked it throughout his life. He has always been pissed off about whatever NATO's up to. So he's using this to have a go at NATO, and but he's also said that somehow China and South Korea are going to join him, which does seem very odd, because China's getting its oil. Iran is making sure that China is getting its oil. So there's no particular reason for China to join in this escort business, because, well, they're getting their oil.
I mean, George, if you look at the meta planning, if there ever was such, yeah, take over Iran's oil, and we'll be able to control the energy resources going into Asia. We can blackmail China, and now they want Chinese to come.
Right. Well, that's a good point. Yes, that's right. And then the South Koreans, which of course is a vassal state, but South Korea said, "Well, we're looking into it. So we'll examine the plans from start to finish, and we'll let you know whether we'll provide any naval escort." And then Keir Starmer gave a news conference earlier today, which really did not really give anything to Trump. He talked a lot about, well, we're going to keep energy prices down. We're going to make sure that the British people don't have to pay exorbitant energy prices. But there's no promise of providing any naval vessels for Trump. Anyway, just watch a little more of this press.
We're taking out their leadership times 2 or 3. Might be 3. We'll find out soon. But militarily, it's been amazing. We attacked Karg Island, and we left just the one little area standing, and the standing part is where they have the pipes, all the oil pipes come in. And we can do that on have it all locked and loaded and ready to go if we want to do it. But we chose not to do it. I chose not to do it yet. We'll see what happens. They want to negotiate. They want to negotiate badly. I don't think they're ready. Just on what I'm hearing, they want to negotiate badly, as they should. But I don't think they're ready to do what they have to do. But I think they will be.
Is he projecting here?
But we're doing.
Well, this is very interesting, because if that were the case, if Iran really were putting out feelers, hey, we want to bring this thing to an end, he wouldn't be talking about it. He would be absolutely negotiating and seeing how we can bring this thing to an end, because this is not going well according to him. So for him to say, oh, they really want to negotiate badly, but I'm the one who's saying no, that's not believable. Now, the foreign minister actually gave an interview yesterday to CBS, and that's worth taking a look at that. Here.
We turn now to the foreign minister of Iran, Abbas Araghchi. Good evening to you, sir.
Well, good evening to you. Thank you for having me for the second time.
Yes, and they are extraordinary times. Minister, President Trump said this weekend he is not ready to make a deal with Iran because the terms aren't good enough yet. His administration is saying this war could last another.
Note just before we go on, the picture of Khamenei next to him. That's that's quite a demonstration of defiance. I mean, he doesn't have to put that picture right there, but there.
I don't know if younger people are aware of it, but then there's the black ribbon on the corner of the frame.
Exactly, the black ribbon, exactly.
3.5 weeks or so. Has Iran asked for a ceasefire?
No, we never asked for a ceasefire, and we have never asked even for negotiation. We are ready to defend ourselves as long as it takes, and this is what we've done so far, and we continue to do that until President Trump comes to the point that this is an illegal war with no victory, and there are people being killed only because President Trump wants to have fun. This is what he has said.
Have fun?
We are not.
Well,
Yeah.
but that's exactly what he said. I mean, so I'm a little bit surprising that she was surprised, because he said that in his I think it was either his Truth or he gave an interview.
No, it's not as clear cut as it's being presented here. He apparently, according to the U.S. side, the Iranian Navy has been destroyed. Well, it hasn't been. 17 ships or something like that. And Trump, he said, I asked them, do we have to destroy them? Why can't we capture them? And they came back to me and said, it's more fun to sink them. So he's quoting one of his advisors, okay? But he literally did say it's more fun. It just, the attribution gets a little convoluted. Okay.
Yes, there was trying to find that there was it was in an interview that he gave to NBC, and I want to just find the exact let me just because that was because it was a very stark expression. Yeah, here it is. So let me. All right. Yeah, here is the quote. He says, "This is from the interview for NBC, and it says that the president also confirmed that U.S. forces carried out strikes on Karg Island, a strategic island off the coast of Iran that is home to an oil terminal responsible for the majority of the nation's oil exports. U.S. Central Command said Saturday morning it had conducted precision strikes on 90 military targets while preserving the oil infrastructure. But Trump said later Saturday that we totally demolished Karg Island, but we may hit it a few more times just for fun."
Then he said just for fun twice in two different contexts.
Right. Okay. And we've totally decimated, the president added, except, as you know, I didn't do anything having to do with energy lines, because having to rebuild that would take years. So
Arachi is correct.
Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, he said it for fun, and that's exactly right. So, all right, let's go back then to. I mean, it's not very presidential language to say.
Particularly, George, it's an incredibly unpopular war and getting more unpopular. Okay.
Exactly. That's right. Yeah. All right. So let's watch a bit more of Arachi.
Sinking, ships and targeting different places because it is fun. And the Secretary of War has said that there is no mercy. And this is actually a war crime. Even saying that is a war crime. So this is a war. This is a war of choice by President Trump and the United States, and we are going to continue our self-defense.
Well, that may be your position, but sir, this is a war of survival for your government. Minister, don't you have to negotiate and reach out either directly or
It's not a war of survival.
Oh, geez.
We are, stable and strong enough. We are only defending our people from this act of aggression, and we don't see any reason why we should talk with Americans, because we were talking with them when they decided to attack us, and that was for the second time. There is no good experience talking with Americans. We were talking, so why they decided to attack us? So what is good if we go back to talk once again?
Well, I want to come back to that in just a moment. You're referring to the diplomacy with President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and his envoy, Steve Witkoff. But just to continue on this, Iran is sending its drones and its missiles into your neighboring countries, American allies throughout the Gulf. Before the war, your government traded with them. You had relations with them. If your government survives this conflict, how do you go back to doing business with countries you're sending drones into and hitting civilian targets?
Well, obviously, these are the countries who have given their soil to American forces to attack us. So what can we do? We just sit and watch that American forces are attacking us from their soil, and
but your drones are going into civilian areas and hitting plants and hotels and civilians.
No, this is not the fact. We are only targeting American assets, American installations, American military bases. Everything belongs to Americans. And
if there's a CIA office in a hotel, it's going to be targeted.
Examples.
Right.
Just yesterday, they attacked our islands using HIMARS artillery rockets, which are long-range rockets, and they used the territory of UAE to attack us. A week ago, 3 F-15 jet fighters were shot down, apparently by a friendly fire in Kuwait, but nobody asked what they were doing in Kuwait. They were using Kuwait and airspace of a neighborly, a friendly country to attack us. So it is obvious we cannot just remain
right. Well, so many countries are part of CENTCOM, but this is the point, is that it's going to hurt your country in the long term. But when we
Yes.
Just a quick observation here. Where's the crazy Iranians yelling and screaming and this calm, collected, factually driven, and hers are, her questions are akin to how often you beat your wife.
That's right. That's right. What was it? That expression that Trump used? Demented scumbags. That's,
there you go.
Yes, that's right.
I guess that's an example of one.
Yes, exactly. And that's who comes across as unhinged. Well, Pete Hegseth comes across as unhinged. I mean, when he gives these news conferences, hey, well, they're down and we're going to kick them, and that's what you do. You just kick them.
Yeah, there's his nickname. It's growing in popularity. Is Greasy Pete.
I thought you were going to say Pete Hex death.
There's a lot going around here. A lot going around with him. But anyway, he's going to have to go. He's going to have to go. And so,
I think if this doesn't, if this doesn't go well for the U.S., he's going to be the fall guy. I mean, it's always the defense guy who's going to be the fall guy. I mean, just like the 2003 invasion debacle, it got blamed on Rumsfeld. Rumsfeld was the fall guy, but Rumsfeld was just, he was doing what the administration wanted done, but he became the fall guy, and it's kind of disappeared. Well, he's obviously dead now, but he disappeared into ignominy after his departure. But anyway, here is the story in Axios about the Trump plan to build a new coalition of the willing.
Well, George, when you say Trump and plan in the same sentence, I'm a bit confused. But continue.
So here's this Trump eyes Hormuz coalition seizure of Iran's Karg Island oil hub. So this is part of the plan, not just the escorts, but to seize Karg Island. And then it says, President Trump is working to assemble a coalition of countries to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and hopes to announce it later this week. And then Trump is also weighing seizure of Iran's critical oil depot on Karg Island, a move that would require U.S. boots on the ground if tankers remain bottled up in the Persian Gulf. And then Trump and senior administration officials spent Saturday and Sunday on the phones working to assemble a multinational coalition. Trump spoke Sunday with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer. A conversation that obviously didn't go well. About the effort, a notable reversal after Trump said days earlier it was too late for the UK to help. And then no country is publicly committed yet, but a senior administration official said Trump expects some to announce their support this week, forming what the White House is calling a Hormuz coalition. Most of this oil isn't our oil. It goes to other countries. So if they want it and they want the price to come down, they need to help out, the official said. The main effort now is securing a political commitment, a source familiar with the negotiations said. The question of who sent what and when will be worked out later. Now, one problem with this coalition of the willing is the obvious one, which is, hey, the United States didn't consult any of these countries before they embarked on this. I mean, if they had, almost all of them would have said, I think this is a dumb idea, and I don't think we should do it because precisely, so many untoward consequences. So now when he goes to them and say, well, can you help us out? They're going to say, yeah, but, you didn't consult us, and now we're supposed to help you out. That doesn't quite compute.
Well, and it obviously, the original plan didn't work out because you're asking for our help now.
Yes.
So plan A didn't work. So do you want us to embrace your plan B, which is pretty nebulous at best? And why should we continue down this path of destruction and humiliation? Then these governments will fall. Okay, I mean, if the price of energy, particularly with the Europeans, which I have no sympathy for because of their policy vis-a-vis Russia, this is like the perfect storm of tragedy for everybody involved, and they all know it. They put their fingerprints on this. That's what they're going to be remembered for.
Yeah, that's right. But he's, when it comes to Europe, he really isn't getting any support from anyone in Europe. I mean, well, first of all, when you look at Keir Starmer, two-tier Keir, I mean, he's not offering support. Macron is just blustering about,
Whatever.
But he hasn't put forward anything. Merz, who originally seemed, gung-ho, now seems to be rather cool and skeptical about the whole project. Even Maloney has good relations with Trump. Maloney says, we're not doing anything. We're not getting involved in this. Even Viktor Orban, his greatest friend, while he hasn't criticized the move, he hasn't exactly embraced it either. And he's just talked about the consequences for mass migration. In other words, he's saying that this is going to have exactly the worst possible consequences for Europe if this war continues. So if you don't even have Orban in your corner, then who exactly? I mean, they'll say, oh yeah, we're going to make announcements this week. Who's going to join?
Yeah, and then it wasn't a few days ago that he made a call to Vladimir Putin, maybe asking him, how can you help me pull my chestnuts out of the fire, which went nowhere, obviously. Yeah, this is a.
Well, the Russians are quite happy. I mean, they, oil prices, over $100 a barrel. We don't need to do anything. I mean, this is pretty good. So, I mean, it's a
war. This is a war without strategic thinking. I mean, if the best indication of it, I mean, at least my reception of what Trump says on Air Force One, which maybe he should just sit down and have a drink once in a while. He's making everyone more and more nervous. You don't really know what you're doing, are you? And he shows it. He telegraphs it all of the time.
Yes.
We've won. Well, then, what's going on if we won?
And so, well, but the missile strikes have gone down by 90%, which of course doesn't even mean anything because everything depends on what they're holding back. But it doesn't matter if it's 90%. But 10% is still 10%. It's not done. You haven't finished. Anyway, so this.
Well, and it also tells, and this is how this goes back to Iraq specifically, is that you have a target menu, you've hit all of them, but the war continues. What's going on with that? I mean, this is elementary stuff here. Okay, it means you haven't degraded their ability to wage war. That's what's most important, not hitting targets.
That's right.
And let's just say the British go in and the French on the Charles de Gaulle, oh, well, we got 50 more planes. So, to hit what?
Yep, that's right. That's right. That's right. And if they're not willing to surrender, then what are you going to do? And then we talked yesterday about the possibility. Well, there's the most extreme option, of resorting to nuclear weapons, which is not off the table because I don't think Iran is going to surrender, and there doesn't seem to be any kind of there doesn't seem to be any rift within the leadership. There doesn't seem to be any kind of opposition on the streets to the government. So it looks like, at least on the surface, it looks like it's a fairly cohesive group of people who are in charge, and it's not even clear who is actually in charge, which means that actually they are working together as a team.
Yep, one side has it together. One side has a strategy. One side is willing to accept the pain. None of those things can be said of the other side.
Right, exactly. So let's go on with this this Axios article, and here we have. On Thursday, Trump will discuss Iran and safe passage of oil tankers with Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi during her first official White House visit. Trump is also pressing China. Well, I noticed she hasn't committed anything. I mean, so we have to wait till Thursday before she comes to Washington, to get some kind of a commitment. Trump is also pressing China to commit to the coalition before he travels to Beijing for his summit with President Xi Jinping.
That's not going to happen.
That's right. But then we'll talk about this interview to the Financial Times in a moment, because it was quite a revealing interview. One Iranian official told CNN that the country might allow tankers safe passage if the oil cargo is traded in Chinese yuan. Not the so that's kind of annoying.
Well, last I heard, and I only saw this with two sources, so I'm still hesitant. But it looks like the Indians have made a deal with the Iranians, but that's unclear. Okay,
right.
And we know that Iranian ships are going through. Okay, that's for sure. Right. What does another country? And then India. It'll come to me. Go ahead.
Right. Trump is drawn to the idea of seizing Kag Island outright because it would constitute an economic knockout of the regime, essentially defunding Iran. Well, that's questionable. However, the problem with seizing the island is that, well, you're just sitting ducks. I mean, then Iran's just going to keep hitting the occupying force. So it's not at all clear that Kag Island would be the knockout blow, but even then, it's you're just sitting duck. Iran is just going to keep.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry, George, I'm not
with these drones over and over again every day.
But how are you even going to get those troops on the island? It's not like, oh, here they come. I mean, see, the thing is there's strategic depth here. I mean, you can see what's coming at you. Okay. It's not like they're gonna land in Caracas, be there for 90 minutes, and leave. I mean, any kind
You
of
have to,
major
exactly. You have to occupy the island, but with these
yeah.
changing rules of warfare, with these very inexpensive drones, you're just sitting ducks, and so therefore they're not. I mean, holding the island would be almost impossible in those circumstances. But the move would require boots on the ground and could trigger Iranian retaliatory strikes against oil facilities and pipelines across Gulf countries, particularly Saudi Arabia. There are big risks, there are big rewards. The president isn't there yet, and we're not saying he will be, the official said. Okay. And then averaging out the timelines mentioned by Trump and his aides, it's fair to assume the administration expected an intense military operation lasting about 4 to 6 weeks. That makes April the 1st a real gut check moment. But in Washington and in capitals around the world, officials are preparing for a much longer crisis. Axios' Beric Ravid tells us he's heard from 3 different people in the administration and in allied countries who believe the instability in the Middle East and U.S. involvement could continue until September, even if the war shifts to low-intensity conflict. And then Israel told journalists it plans at least 3 more weeks of attacks on thousands of additional targets in Iran. So it's 1,000.
Where do you hang your hat on this here? 3 more weeks to do what?
Well, it's
what do you need to accomplish that you haven't accomplished now? I mean,
well, that's right. But
smoke.
If he says there are thousands of additional targets, I thought you've already destroyed everything. I mean, I thought that was what Trump is saying. We've already destroyed everything. So now you're saying there are thousands of additional targets. That doesn't sound like you've destroyed anything. So,
and okay, I mean. This is slipping into the Israelization of American foreign policy. Well, if there's no more military barracks to hit, let's hit hospitals. Let's hit schools. Okay.
Well,
that's Israel wants to destroy civil society and infrastructure. Okay.
Yes.
I mean, we don't see that directly from the Americans right now, but they could easily slip into it. Okay.
Right.
I mean, because air power isn't going to do it. Yeah, you're going to wreck Iran. No one have any illusions. It's going to be
but the problem with that strategy, which is, well, let's just hit the civilian targets, is that isn't going to deliver the goods either.
Exactly.
Governments hunker down. They can live with civilian casualties. I mean,
George, what I'm just saying
is the lesson of World War II, especially that both sides could live with civilian casualties.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that they have to show they're doing something. Right. Okay, and that may be the default position. Okay, and of course there's going to be growing frustration that this was supposed to be over in 72 hours. Okay, yeah. The global economy is tanking. People are paying $8 a gallon in California, and it's only going to get worse.
Yeah.
The ABC News, CBS News. I mean, if that woman had any brains in her head, you say, well, what could negotiations look like? Like draw them out. I mean, I would have asked something like that. Instead
well, later on in the interview, we didn't feature the whole interview, but she said, well, you offered, because she was the one who interviewed the Omani foreign minister about the diluting the 400 kilos of enriched uranium. It says, and then she asked him, well, are you offering to do that now? And he said, well, no, that was part of the deal then. It was a whole package of things. I mean, I'm not just going to say, yeah, I'm prepared to do that. No, that was the deal then. You can't just simply isolate one thing. Oh, were you offering this? No, we were negotiating a whole bunch of things. Key part of it, of course, would have been and the lifting of sanctions, and probably something like, hey, how about unfreezing the assets that actually belong to us and have been frozen all these years? So you can't just do this sort of, you're going to agree to this. No, I mean, it's a package. That's the whole point. So we're not offering anything like this.
It's what we said yesterday. One thing, how this is going to end, I don't know. What the terms and conditions will be, I don't know. But one thing I do know, There's no return to the status quo ante. You can take that to the bank.
And here we have, it goes on. Anyway, so this is again the Axios thing, and this is another article in Axios. The Iranians have made it clear in private and in public that even if Trump decides to end the war, they could continue shooting missiles and rockets until they get guarantees that this is the end of the war, not just a temporary ceasefire. That's really the key, and that's why that the whole idea that they're negotiating. They're not. They don't need a ceasefire because ceasefire just doesn't do them anything good. And then Trump has grown accustomed to doing what he wants and then quickly improvising if things go south. But this time, some in his inner circle have what one official called buyer's remorse, growing fears that attacking Iran was a mistake.
Yep.
A source close to the administration said some key officials around Trump were reluctant or wanted more time. He ended up saying, "I just want to do it." The source said he grossly overestimated his ability to topple the regime short of sending ground troops. Was it Delcy Rodriguez? Delcy Rodriguez.
Where are you?
I have to say, I mean, Delcy Rodriguez will, I think, go down in history. Her name will be always ignominious. I mean, because she was then used to justify this attack, even though she had nothing to do with it, but her name was kept being invoked as the justification for this attack. She will always be remembered, the Delcy Rodriguez option. I think
Yeah,
her name will be always ignominious.
The Rodriguez catalyst.
Yeah. That's right. Because whereas Maduro, he's in prison, but nonetheless, he's a heroic. There's a heroic quality to him.
Well, I mean, George, one of the interesting things here is that as of today, as we're talking about, what the Trump circle are saying and not saying, or confusingly saying, Israel launched a land war into Lebanon. Okay. I mean, and they're mobilizing hundreds of thousands of reservists. I mean, it's really quite interesting is that the Israelis are far more concerned with a land grab while this is all going on, as the Americans are doing the heavy lifting as usual. Okay,
as per usual, exactly.
And I don't want to waste a lot of time on it, but Israel's scorecard in southern Lebanon is a pretty dismal one. Okay, so. I mean, isn't it really truly extraordinary? Is that this is existential for Israel right now? Again, I've seen hundreds and hundreds of pictures today alone. It looks like they're getting hit pretty hard, but I'm not a judge.
It's very hard to know because everything is censored. So really, we're not really seeing anything other than people. There's rumors and so on. So it's very hard to know how much. And a lot of the pictures you see are pictures from last June, not even anything this time around. So it is hard to know.
I mean, but just take that on board, everyone. Israel and the United States started war against Iran, but it looks like Israel's primary interest is a land grab in Syria, a land grab in Lebanon. And, the Trump people can talk about negotiations all they want, but Israel will say, well, possession is 9/10 of the law. We got it. Okay. Right. We're not going to give it back.
That's right. But there's a real problem. I mean, they've done that before. Yep. Grabbing a piece of Lebanon, all the way up to the Litani River. That hasn't worked out for them. They did that in 2006. It was a real pain for them to do. I mean, this is an ongoing thing. Their attempts to occupy southern Lebanon, and it's never worked out well for Israel. Anyway, here's this, what we were talking about, this interview with the Financial Times, where Trump clearly expresses his exasperation with his NATO allies. So here's the headline. Donald Trump warns NATO faces very bad future if allies fail to help U.S. in Iran. And then it says Donald Trump has warned that NATO faces a very bad future if U.S. allies fail, in opening up the Strait of Hormuz, sending a blunt message to European nations to join his war effort in Iran. The U.S. president told the FT in an interview on Sunday that he could also delay his summit with China's President Xi Jinping later this month as he presses Beijing to help unblock the crucial waterway.
Who wants a photo up with Donald Trump right now? Who?
Yeah. And it's only appropriate that people who are the beneficiaries of the strait will help to make sure that nothing bad happens there. Trump said, arguing that Europe and China are heavily dependent on oil from the Gulf, unlike the US. If there's no response, or if it's a negative response, I think it will be bad for the future of NATO. And then it says, Trump's comments made in an 8-minute phone call with the FT came a day after he appealed to China, France, Japan, South Korea, and UK to join the team effort to open up a choke point through which a fifth of the world's oil passes. And then, despite his warning, Trump was pessimistic that US allies would heed his pleas for help. We have a thing called NATO, said Trump, who has often criticized the alliance. We've been very sweet. We didn't have to help them with Ukraine. Ukraine is thousands of miles away from us, but we helped them. Now we'll see if they help us, because I've long said that we'll be there for them, but they won't be there for us.
And but the U.S. started a war. There's no obligation to go along with when you start a war. If the United States has been attacked by an Iranian missile, then you could invoke Article 5.
Oh,
but
you're right. He's bringing up the Ukraine thing, and that's very, very interesting because he has no interest in Ukraine. He never has had an interest. He detests Zelensky. I mean, the way he talks about Zelensky now, I mean, withering contempt. And he says, "We're doing this for you. I don't have any interest in this. It's your war. It's your backyard. We're doing this for you. You got to do something for us." And this is where the Europeans are in a bind. I mean, whereas they don't want to get involved in this, the Strait of Hormuz thing, but they do want the U.S. to continue with this Ukraine thing, and so therefore that's how he holds them. And otherwise, then essentially they have to wrap up Ukraine. And this is kind of a very interesting the situation that has arisen precisely on those grounds. Hold a second, because one of these a European leader, which is namely Bart de Wever. You remember Bart de Wever, the Belgian prime minister, the one who said, "No, we're not handing over any of these Russian frozen assets." Bart de Wever has said we need to wrap up Ukraine. I mean, because he's saying, look, essentially, we don't have the means of forcing a policy change on Putin, and we don't really have the Americans in our corner. So here's the story in the Financial Times with Bart de Wever. Here it is. This Belgian Prime Minister calls for EU to normalize ties with Russia. And then right-wing nationalist Bart de Wever. I like the way he's now become this right-wing nationalist figure. Challenge, used to be the mayor of Amsterdam, and it was for full support for not Amsterdam, sorry, Antwerp.
When you call him, right wing, that means he's a Putin puppet, George.
Okay? Exactly. I mean, obviously, yes. I mean, Putin puppet. He said no to the unfreezing of those assets. And so, Belgian Prime Minister has called for the EU to normalize relations with Russia to access cheap energy, a rebuff to the bloc's agreed strategy of maximum support to Ukraine as it seeks to battle Moscow's 4-year invasion. And then it says, normalize relations with Russia and regain access to cheap energy. That is common sense. So this is Bart de Wever. This is a Belgian prime minister. This isn't Orban, as a right-wing Flemish nationalist who has previously challenged wholehearted EU support for Ukraine. And then it says, in private, European leaders agree with me, but no one dares to say it out loud. We must end the conflict in the interest of Europe without being naive toward Putin. And then De Wever, who last year blocked a Berlin-backed European Commission plan to use Russian sovereign assets frozen in Belgium to fund a loan to Ukraine, said in an interview that the approach of providing military support to Ukraine while trying to undermine Russia's economy was not feasible without the full-throated support of the U.S. So that was, I think, the important thing. Is he's saying, look, this can only work if we have the U.S. in our corner. But Trump really isn't in our corner. It's clear he's not interested in Ukraine. And the fact that he just lifted the sanctions on Russia just like that, basically that the Europeans know he's not backing the Europeans. Given that we are unable to pressure Putin by sending weapons to Ukraine and cannot suffocate his economy without US support, only one method remains: making a deal. And De Weber's statement was criticized by his foreign minister, Maxime Prévost, of the center-left Francophone party, Les Engages. Should we engage in a dialogue with Russia? Yes. That is what diplomacy is, talking, including those with whom you disagree. But dialogue is not the same as normalization, and that is a crucial distinction. And it goes on.
Okay. Yeah, it's a crucial distinction, and distinction without a difference. Okay, I mean, whatever. Okay.
Yes, exactly. Today, Russia refuses a European presence at the table. Actually, it's the Americans who refuse a European presence at the table. And there's no reason for a European presence at the table. So that's, it maintains maximalist demands. As long as that is the case, talking about normalization sends a signal of weakness and undermines the.
How do you know that those are maximalists? That's the
That's the
opening
negotiation.
parlay. Oh yeah, that's how you start the negotiations. Okay,
That's
so why don't you parlay and figure out what's going on? I mean, these people are just intellectual pygmies. Sorry to pygmies. Okay,
That's
but really, I mean, we haven't talked about it for a while, and I'm actually glad because I'm so sick and tired of parsing the words of low octane thinkers. I mean, it's just a waste of our time, George.
right. No, I agree, but I think it's clear that that Trump is now really preoccupied with this.
Oh yeah.
And he's ready to make one concession after another in order to get this war over and done with. So therefore, the idea that he's just going to continue, oh well, but I'm with you on Ukraine. He said, no, I'm not with you on Ukraine, because it's saying, look, I'm not interested in Ukraine. And that it's just said that. So I want to go back to that interview with we were looking at that with the Financial Times, because this is where he's issuing these threats to. So it says, we're hitting them very hard. They've got nothing left. No, yeah, they've got nothing left. But to make a little trouble in the strait, but those people are beneficiaries and they ought to help us police it. We'll help them, but they should also be there. You sort of need a lot of people to watch over a few. But there's also no real explanation. I mean, if why do you need so many? I mean, I thought everything is already over and done with, and you're so overwhelmingly stronger than everyone else. Why do you need any assistance? And then,
well, what are the assets that can be brought to bear? It's not very clear to me. I mean,
no.
The French and the British. I mean, their blue water presence is radically diminished in this century. I mean, it's really not much to talk about.
Right.
And the rest of Europe, I mean, the Spaniards and the Italians, but they have coast guards. Okay, I mean, what do you want them to do? What can they possibly do?
They're not going to get shot at. That's the point. They simply are not ready to get shot at. The war is very unpopular throughout Europe. That's why Keir Starmer's not sending anything there. He knows it's unpopular. It's not, British naval vessels start getting shot at. That's not going to go down well. And then Trump said he was also expecting China to help unblock the strait before he travels to Beijing at the end of the month for a summit.
Yeah, but Chinese ships are making it through.
Well, that's the point. The China has no incentive. There's no incentive. So the Chinese are going to antagonize Iran, even though they're getting oil from Iran without any problem. So why would they do that? I think China should help too, because China gets 90% of its oil from the Strait. Trump said waiting until the summit would be too late. We'd like to know before that. It's a long time. He added that his trip to China might also be put back. We may delay. He did not say for how long. And then having
So
spoken,
I mean, I don't think Trump is in a position to give these kind of veiled threats.
well, I don't think so. I actually think the summit is going to take place. I mean, because they got a lot of things to discuss. I don't think either side has any interest in canceling the summit. I mean, because
We'll see.
yeah, we'll see. But I mean, they do a lot of business. China and the United States do a lot of business. I think just it wouldn't be to anyone's advantage canceling the summit. But there's no. But this makes no sense. Where the China would send its naval vessels to get shot at by Iranians. Iran's an ally of China's. So it makes yes, and then having spoken earlier on Sunday to Britain's Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer, Trump expressed particular frustration with Britain's response so far. And that after Trump had arranged that state visit. Trump has now had 2 state visits to the UK, and a state dinner with the king, and even so, didn't do any good. And then
Yeah, remember when he gave him the physical invitation from the
that's right, exactly. He
monarch?
physically
Like,
took it out of his pocket and handed
yeah,
it.
wow. I'm really impressed. Yeah, I guess.
The UK might be considered the number 1 ally, the longest serving, etc. And when I asked them to come, they didn't want to come, he said. And as soon as we basically wiped out the danger capacity from Iran, they said, oh, well, we'll send 2 ships. And I said, we need those ships before we win, not after we win. I've long said that NATO is a one-way street.
Yeah, well, the special relationship is a one-way street.
That's right. He claimed any danger to allies moving assets into the Gulf would be minimal since U.S. and Israel had destroyed Iran's military capacity in the past.
How are your military bases there, Mr. Trump?
Yeah. I don't think it's minimal. We've essentially decimated Iran. Trump said they have no navy, no anti-aircraft, no air force. Everything is gone. The one thing
So
that
why?
you do is make a little trouble by putting a mine in the water, a nuisance, but the nuisance can cause problems. So if it's so minor, why do you need all this help?
Exactly.
Trump also warned the U.S. was prepared to launch new strikes on Carg Island and could target its oil infrastructure. You saw we hit Carg Island, everything but the pipes yesterday. We can hit that in 5 minutes, and there's not a thing they can do about it.
See, what he's trying to do is this is called special pleading. He's trying to convince you, to ignore the facts, okay?
Right.
Ignore reality, okay?
Right.
This is really a pathetic presentation. It really is very pathetic, and it should scare all of us because
Right.
this is a war policy done on the fly. That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah. And it says, asked whether Russia was helping Iran with satellite data to target U.S. and Israeli anti-missile shield, Trump said, I don't know one way or the other, but you could also make the case that we helped Ukraine to an extent. It's hard to say you're targeting us, well, we've been helping Ukraine.
See, that's what people liked about Donald Trump, because he says things that he's not supposed to say.
But he's also saying, yeah, okay, yeah, they may well be helping Iran, but then look, we helped on, and he's more or less admits because there's a symmetry. Yeah, they're helping with targeting, or they may be helping with targeting, but so what? We helped Ukraine with targeting, so it all comes out in the wash. But he doesn't care. That's the point. That the Ukraine thing, the Europeans are absolutely obsessed with Ukraine, but he isn't. So that's the now on other news. I don't know whether you saw this short podcast by Tucker Carlson, in which he claims that the CIA, it's not exactly clear, the CIA seems to be pushing for a criminal prosecution of Tucker Carlson.
Well, this sounds very bizarre, because why would the CIA be doing that against an American citizen? Wouldn't it be the FBI that would be doing
Well,
that? Very
that's right.
bizarre.
Well, it's bizarre, but the way he's formulated it, it's not like the CIA is actually prosecuting him, or it's more that they are that they're urging the DOJ to prosecute. Anyway, let's watch a little bit of his podcast. And here.
So the other day I found out that the CIA is preparing some kind of criminal referral against me, a crime report, to the Department of Justice on the basis of a supposed crime I committed. What's that crime? Well, talking to people in Iran before the war. They read my texts. So the crime under consideration apparently would be the Foreign Agent Act or something like that, acting as an agent of a foreign power. And I don't expect this to go anywhere. I'm not too worried about an actual criminal case against me for a bunch of reasons. One, I'm not an agent of a foreign power. Unlike a lot of people commenting on U.S. politics and global affairs, I have only one loyalty, and that's the United States, and I've never acted against it. Its interests are the only interests I care about because I'm from here and I have a lot of kids. So that's not a concern. I've also never taken money from anybody. Don't need it, don't want it, and that's provable. And we're on my job to talk to everybody all the time and try and figure out what's happening around the world. That's literally what I do for a living, and I'm not going to stop doing that, nor should I don't think. I'm an American. I can talk to anybody. To divulge. So legally, I think the case is ludicrous, and I doubt it will even become a case. I'm bringing this up for a couple of reasons, though, and they're pretty obvious. One is that countries tend to become more authoritarian in wartime. It's just the nature of war. People are dying. The stakes are high. People's emotions have risen to a very high point, to a crescendo. And so there's much less tolerance for any kind of dissent in the homeland. The irony, of course, is the United States fights wars on behalf of freedom, but there's always less of it here in our country during war. So that's a widely recognized phenomenon, and it's likely to happen now too. Another point to make that is worth knowing is that the USIC, the intelligence agency, spy on Americans. Now, you probably knew that, and it's been revealed a lot, including by Julian Assange and Ed Snowden, both of whom were threatened with death for revealing it, but everyone knows. But it's probably a little more widespread than most people understand, and it's outrageous. There's no justification for your government, which you own, you're a shareholder in it, you pay for it, to be violating your privacy like this. But it happens all the time. And in fact, one of the reasons that CIA, or people within CIA, just to be clear, it's a huge, sprawling, disconnected agency. What it does in a specific case doesn't represent what everybody in the building thinks, but there are some people who are mad at me for my views about Israel. And they have some latitude. And one of the reasons they pass on criminal complaints, in effect, to law enforcement is to justify warrant spying on Americans. So that is an absolutely real thing. But
all right, so that in a way gives you a clue, I think, what might be happening, which is they want to essentially threaten people. I mean, they want people to
Exactly.
you say, hey, you want
It's a chilling effect. Chilling effect.
Exactly.
If you're going after Tucker, everybody else is rungs lower from Tucker. Yeah.
That's right. And that and remember that happened with him before, when he was still at Fox News, and then he was putting out feelers that he wanted to interview Putin, and then he said, well, somehow the intelligence community found out that I was trying to get an interview with Putin. So that has happened before. Now, I don't know on what basis they would uh, prosecute, but what I think is interesting and what I think is quite troubling is that there have been forces within the United States who have been pushing for a prosecution of Tucker Carlson, forces that are close at least to Trump, namely somebody like Laura Loomer and Mark Levin. And it's mentioned Trump sent out a very fulsome truth yesterday about Mark Levin, raving, what an incredible person Mark Levin is. Um, so the fact that Trump is obviously now completely identifying himself with Mark Levin and Laura Loomer, both but absolute insane
Lunatics.
exactly Israel firsters. So anyway, but Tucker what got criticized for this, we're always saying, oh, of course it's all dismissed. So here is this Mark Caputo is the other guy who works at Axios. So we're always it's always Barak Ravid, but the other person is Mark Caputo. And he says the online chatter at Tucker Carlson looked like quite a story. He was being spied on by CIA, and knowing that, Trump treated him as a useful idiot by feeding him disinfo that fooled the Iranians about the looming February the 28th attack. This was put out by some, again, Trump supporters. Oh yeah, we just used him to feed false information to the Iranians. Top administration officials say it's bullshit. And then specifically, I'm told there's no CIA investigation of Carlson. In his meeting, the two politely disagreed. That's Trump and Carlson. And Trump held to his position. Iran was a threat and didn't mislead him, said one source. Trump wasn't participating in an op. And then an addendum for folks saying that the CIA wouldn't be investigated, but would only refer to DOJ, or that the NSA or another intel agency made the reference. I checked that as well. Same answer, no. That said, DOJ, FBI is getting lots of citizen requests to investigate him.
Yeah.
Farah.
Yeah. Just look at your Twitter feed. Those are the citizens, okay? The Twitter fanatics.
That's right, exactly. And then here is this woman, Laura Loomer. And she says, if Tucker Carlson gets charged for violating FARA and or leaking information to Russia, Saudi Arabia, Iran, or Qatar, I'm taking credit. So I'm taking credit if he gets charged for violating FARA. Islamic sympathizers always project onto others what they are likely guilty of.
Yeah, well, she could easily be investigated under FARA for being an agent.
Yes, exactly. And then it says, you have no idea how relentless I have been in speaking to GOP reps and even reporting Tucker to law enforcement and the DOJ. Well, that's nice.
We do have an idea. You're talking about it not incessantly over all. I mean, I can't avoid her name in my feed.
That's right. That's right. I pray my efforts are successful. Tucker says the CIA read his texts to set him up for a crime. Sounds like someone is trying to get ahead of a story. Lock him up. It's sort of interesting, isn't it? This is the Trump coalition. Supposedly, hey, wasn't it about free speech? Those days of the Biden were fighting against what Biden was doing, and all.
Release the Epstein files. Yeah.
Yeah, and then suddenly lock him up. For what? Well, just lock him up. And so here she goes on. And Tucker Carlson needs to be investigated for possible FARA violations. And then take a look at this video, and she has blah, blah. And then why does Tucker need such a large entourage on a trip to Saudi Arabia where he spoke at the Real Estate Future Forum? They appear to be chilling. Is Tucker paying for all of these people to travel around the Middle East with him? Or are the Islamic governments of these countries paying? If these countries are paying, why isn't Tucker registering with FARA? If he's having his expenses covered by Islamic groups when he travels to do what he calls journalism, shouldn't he be disclosing that to his audience so we know who is influencing his reporting? Is Tucker personally footing the bill himself and the 6-7 person entourage and security to travel with him for a whole
I
week?
would imagine he does.
Well, that's the interesting thing. I mean,
I imagine that he does. Okay.
Tucker
He did that with the Huckabee trip.
Yeah, he has money. That's the point. Tucker is
money.
not short of money. I mean, he's never been short of money, but now, I mean, his father died, so imagine he inherited some money, so he doesn't really need the money. He's never needed the money. I'm sure he made an awful lot of money all the years that he worked at
Fox.
News. So I just, he doesn't need anyone to pay for his trips. But
I mean, he made it quite clear with the Huckabee interview that it was at great expense, actually, because they had to hire a private jet and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's right. And then I'm going to start reporting Tucker and his staff to the Department of Justice, which is tasked with enforcing FARA. The U.S. Attorney General has the authority to file a civil injunction to force someone to register with FARA. Violations of FARA can lead to criminal prosecution, resulting in up to 5 years in prison and large fines. Tucker Carlson should not be immune to accountability and immune from being made to register as a foreign agent just because he has relatives and friends inside the White House. I will also be contacting bipartisan members of Congress to contact the DOJ about this matter. Awful little.
Yeah. So when
police agent.
Yeah. So I don't know the numbers right off the top of my head, but when Tucker drops a good interview, it gets about 2 million views. So Laura Loomer, the next time he does it, it's going to be 5 million. Good job.
That's right. Yeah. It's never good when you promote yourself as a snoop, as essentially a police agent. You're snitching people out to the police. It's not. I mean, it's not a good look. And really, what have you got against him? Because he's been critical of Israel, and that's the thing. Now, when there was that terrorist act the other day with the synagogue, she immediately rushed out and blamed Tucker Carlson for it. Boom! Yeah. She right off the bat, she just blamed Tucker Carlson. These are really terrible people.
Yeah.
She and Levin, who have been waging this campaign against Tucker Carlson. I have my doubts that this could go anywhere. I don't, I don't. First Amendment. I think you really can't get around that First Amendment in the United States.
Yeah, but I mean, let's hold our horses, everyone. Trump has always been on edge when it comes to the mainstream media, and George and I have covered his battles with the media, and I have a great deal of sympathy for him. Okay, in the way he was treated, but when you look at Greasy Pete there. There could be an impulse, certainly an impulse in the administration to lash out. There are guys over at what is the agency that deals with frequencies?
NSA, the National Security Agency.
No. I mean, people commercially where they.
This that one. Yeah. That's right.
Everybody knows what we mean. Okay. Yes. I mean, he's talking about, if like NBC or CNN, if they threaten national security, maybe they'll have their license revoked. Okay. Yes. The acronym is floating around my head. It'll come. It's like it's like I have like a roulette wheel. The ball will drop.
Okay? I know. Yeah, that's right. But I just want to show what Trump said here about Mark Levin. Remember when Mark Levin had him in a headlock?
FCC. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, FCC.
The FCC. Good. That's the one. That's right. And here he is. This is the truth that Trump sent out. This is Mark Levin, a truly great American patriot, is somewhat under siege by other people with far less intellect. Is somewhat under siege. Under siege by whom?
Boom.
Far less intellect, capability, and love for our country. Our country? Really? I haven't noticed that.
I thought he just loves Israel.
Yeah, exactly. That was my assumption. Mark is tough, strong, and brilliant. Is he? Hence the nickname the Great One, conceived by our MAGA friend, the wonderful Sean Hannity. After years of dealing with Mark in legal, media, and other capacities, Mark would often do Sean's show speaking as a lawyer, and Sean realized then, as did others, that he was special. Mark Levin was not looking to do television, radio, or anything else, but he was drafted by very smart people who understood that there are few like him. He's a true conservative, an intellect far smarter than those who criticize him, but above.
If you were just put this in the past tense, it would be a eulogy.
Yes, he goes on. He's just going. This is
Yeah.
what you spend your time on. I mean, there's a bloody war on, and you spend your time writing this interminable truth about the glories of Mark Levin. Far smarter than those who criticize him, but above all, he's a man of great wisdom and common sense who truly loves our country. Second time he said that. When you hear others unfairly attack Mark,
Who's doing that?
well, the only one who does that is Tucker Carlson.
Oh, but yet, as a reaction, I mean, this is
Right,
not
as a reaction, but he does, over and over again.
Well, Megyn Kelly does, but as a reaction.
Megyn Kelly does as well. Okay, so that's Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson. Yeah. Unfairly attack Mark. Remember that they are jealous and angry human beings. Are they?
I thought Mark was angry and jealous.
He's very angry. I mean, yeah. He doesn't have anything like the following of either Tucker or Megyn Kelly, whose sway is much less than the public understands. This is these people who are jealous and angry human beings, and will, now that they know where I stand, rapidly diminish. Other than for his wonderful wife and family, Mark Levin only cares and wants one thing: greatness and success for America. No, he doesn't. Those that speak ill of Mark speak ill of Mark. Imagine talking like that. Those that speak ill of Mark will quickly fall by the wayside, as do the people whose ideas, policies, and footings are not sound. They are not MAGA. I am. And MAGA includes not allowing Iran, a sick, demented, and violent terrorist regime, to have a nuclear weapon to blow up the United States.
He didn't write this, George. He didn't write it. That's not Trump speak. No, that's not Trump speak. I don't believe it. Mark Levin wrote it.
It could well be. Could well be, Jay. Yeah. Sick, demented, and violent terrorist regime to have
that's Mark Levin. Yeah,
that's Levin. Yeah, to have a nuclear weapon to blow up the United States of America, the Middle East, and ultimately the rest of the world. So Iran's going to blow up the rest of the world. It's amazing. MAGA is about stopping them cold, and that is exactly what we are doing. God bless our great military, which I have rebuilt since the beginning of my first term to achieve everlasting peace through strength. Make America great again. Thank you for your attention to the matter. Now, I just think this is just amazing. I mean, to put something like that out about Mark Levin, who doesn't have a following. I mean, he's never had a following. I mean, he has such an unappealing personality. He would not have had that show on Fox News if I mean, it's true. It was Hannity who got him that slot. And for some reason, Hannity is very intimidated by Mark Levin. But who the only people who have been attacking him were, as we mentioned, I said Tucker Carlson, you said Megyn Kelly. I don't know who else. So this whole huge defense of Mark Levin is against Tucker Carlson, whom would
Most people don't care what Mark Levin has to say. I mean, that guy is about as attractive as a brick. I mean, he's awful delivery, yelling. He's just yelling all of that. There was a guy in the 1930s and 40s that yelled a lot when he made a speech. Okay, that's kind of reminiscent, you know.
That's right. So, but that was so. I mean, it was already weird when he had Trump in that headlock. I mean, the idea of in the Oval Office of grabbing the president of the United States and putting him in a headlock, which was just weird. And now we have this truth, which means so Trump has now identified himself with Mark Levin, Laura Loomer, and the senator,
Lady Graham.
Lady Lindsay.
Lady Graham.
Lady Graham. Anyway, let's now take a look at our locals page. These are the people who worry a great deal about the dogs, and they know the dogs get a little depressed. And Cynthia, always welcome, and Cynthia, always thank you so much for your generosity. So Cynthia says, I wouldn't put much stock in U.S. military casualty claims in the Middle East, especially when the numbers strain credulity. Okay. Meanwhile, in the quote, the largest U.S. military hospital in the region has halted labor and delivery amid the Iran war to prioritize combat casualties. Trump blasted Iranians as the most evil people on earth, claiming that they cut babies' heads off, and chop women in half. He kind of confounding the Hamas thing with Iran. So he just basically says Hamas and Iran are just one and the same. But I mean, this was the Israeli propaganda at the time. This was Hamas was doing. The projection is stark, condemning atrocities abroad while denying care to its own babies and women, exposes U.S. hypocrisy.
Sure.
I do think these casualty numbers. I'm not buying this. They've said it's 13. I don't know what the real numbers are, but I don't believe the U.S. claims.
There's no look. There's nothing. What has this administration said about this war that you believe?
Right.
I don't believe anything.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is unfortunately this is how many administrations. As long as we don't have any casualties, any kind of atrocities we commit are fine. Okay. I don't buy into that either. But it is a third rail. All right. You guys are going to stomp all around the world and kill poor people in the global south, but don't lose one American soldier. Okay, now, that's the mantra, and they are losing. And I don't believe if we really want to know what's going on, it's those military hospitals in Germany. Are they full?
Good, that's right. If you have high injury rates, in other words, the people who are getting treated, that means there also have to be fatal injuries. They can't just simply be all people who are just injured, but they're not. There are no fatalities. So, and notice how the way they're presenting who got killed. It's always friendly fire. It's all friendly fire,
Right.
or it was somehow
or pilot error.
Exactly, an air accident. Yeah. They don't want to admit that Americans are getting killed. And I think this is Trump's vulnerability. He rushed into this war without getting any kind of public support, without really making any attempt to sell the public on this war. And so he knows that the moment these casualties start mounting, he's in serious trouble. And that's why all this talk about, we're going to take Carg Island is just empty talk. I mean, that really will lead to heavy casualties.
Gallipoli. That's what it will be.
That's right. Anyway, Cynthia goes on and says, it is tragic that a U.S. bombing raid on Carg Island would not only threaten lives, but devastate fragile coral reefs. Yeah. These reefs, once supporting local fishing, pearl diving, and small-scale farming, now face needless destruction. Yeah, that's a very good point. That I haven't seen that point addressed. Yeah, face needless destruction, a shocking disregard for the environment. Even worse, environmentalists have mostly stayed silent. Yep, leaving.
Well, the Pentagon is the biggest polluter in the world. Everyone, by a long shot. By a long shot.
Right, but that's interesting because I haven't that issue of this sort of the destruction of the fragile coral reef. So even if though Trump says, well, we didn't touch the oil infrastructure, yeah, but you have nonetheless devastated the coral reefs, and that what all that means, this the impact that has on fishing and pearl diving and everything else. That's a very good point. The loss isn't just ecological, it erases centuries of natural and human heritage in the Persian Gulf, a legacy that still matters today. Absolutely. And
Well,
then,
there's a comment here. Peter looks like a military guy. I don't know where that comes from. A lot of people said I resemble different kinds of people and professions, but never the military. So that's a new one. Okay.
but you can't always tell because remember when we had Vindman, the Vindman of the
Yeah.
of impeachment fame, and he came along. And remember when somebody called him Mr. Vindman, and said Lieutenant Colonel Vindman. He corrected the senator who was speaking to him, but um, Vindman definitely didn't look like a military guy. I mean, he looked
No.
comfortably plump.
Yeah, he's a doughboy. He was a doughboy.
Yeah. I mean, because you remember military guys like MacArthur and Patton, they kind of looked.
Well,
They looked
even
very
Ollie
fit.
North. Ollie
Yeah.
North, to be fair.
Right. Yes, that's right. Exactly. No, that's all in all things. Like, yeah, they look military guys. They look.
Petraeus.
Yes.
He looked military.
Right. Exactly. Michael Flynn definitely looks a very
Oh
military
yeah.
guy.
Yeah. And General Kane, when he's not looking at his shoes. Okay. I mean, that presser, he was just like, "What are you checking? Is your fly down? Wait? Can't you look out at people?"
That's right. Anyway, Cynthia then goes on and says, it's a shady paradox in my view. Why would pro-Israel mega donor Jeff Yass dump $1 million into saving Thomas Massie, the very man leading the charge to defund the Israeli war effort? To skeptics such as myself, this is a fishy, cynical payoff. Massie is a rare GOP voice fighting the TikTok ban, which conveniently shields Yass's $34 billion stake in ByteDance. So fighting the TikTok ban.
Well, I'm not sure. Every state has its own campaign financing laws. I mean, you say you're going to give money, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you accept it. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Okay. It suggests Yass's Zionism is a hollow talking point traded away the moment his personal bottom line is at risk. Yeah, I don't know really this about this.
This is new to me. New to me.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I'll look into that, but I can't say I know much about it. I mean, but I think on a general level, I mean, we are big supporters of Thomas Massie. I haven't really supported him on the Jeffrey Epstein thing, but that's a different issue. On all the other things, like on the issue of war, on the issue of support for Israel, on issues of free speech and everything else. I think he's a first-rate man. I mean, he's really one of the best Republican congressmen around. So the fact that Trump just hates him so much and just rants and raves about him in the way that he doesn't about others, just shows how much Trump has kind of lost his way and doesn't seem to understand the forces that actually propelled him to.
Well, what forces propelled Trump to write that about Mark Levin? Really, was he? That is so mysterious to me. I mean, in the middle of all of this, okay, and you have time, you have the headspace to write something like that, which did not sound like him. Okay, there's Trumpisms peppered in it, but it didn't. I mean, because the sentences were complete, coherent. It wasn't juvenile English. Okay, it just wasn't Trump. I just feel it. Sorry.
Yes. No, I find that entirely plausible, but it's still striking, though, that Trump would accept a draft written for him by Levin, and then just simply post it. Why did Trump?
Why did the U.S. go to war against Iran? Okay, then we can start there, George, and then we can go down.
That's
okay.
Right.
The fact that someone compelled him or highly suggested or cajoled him to print that about Mark Levin, that's within the realm of possibilities of the
Well,
world we live in today. I'm sorry.
I think so. I think so. And I think if your theory is correct, and I think it is correct, which is that Trump was that this was drafted for Trump by Mark Levin, then why is Levin so intent on having Trump post this? Other than he wants to destroy all opposition along the of Tucker Carlson, because it's obviously directed at Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly. Anyway, here's a question from Stone River. Thank you so much, Stone River, for your generosity. It says, how do you expect Trump to react to a likely midterm wipeout for the Republicans? Double down as commander-in-chief? Well, that's a possibility. I would say he's going to be fighting for his survival. If there is a complete wipeout, the Democrats take the House, comfortable majority. But if they take the Senate, then he's not only facing impeachment, he's facing the real possibility of conviction. And that's going to be a serious issue for him. I don't know whether he's going to have time to double down as commander-in-chief. He's going to be working the phones to make sure that there are 34 Republicans who are going to vote to acquit him. So that's going to be very much a full-time.
Stone River, I think that it's within the realm of possibility that the 25th Amendment will be invoked and he'll be removed from power, because the Republicans are looking at an extinction event here, and they want to avoid it. JD Vance's currency with me is about zero right now, okay, to be honest with you. But he's not Trump. And I believe, the economic effects are just beginning, okay, just beginning. And if they say this thing goes on for another 100 days, the impact of 100 days is going to be felt all around the world, okay? Right. And fixing it, and we have no idea how this thing is going to end. Nobody knows, okay? And I think it's going to be long, and it's going to be protracted, and it's going to be really, really messy. And you know what? It's got Donald Trump's name on it, okay? Yeah. And I don't think he can survive this, okay? I personally think that MAGA has been shattered. Okay, look at Trump's campaign stump in Kentucky. That was not even lukewarm. It was like a corpse. Okay, and that is in one of the reddest states in the country. Okay, this guy is in major trouble. Okay, and if the Republicans want to avoid a complete blowout, and I mean a serious one, in 2024, Donald Trump had a world historic win. Every battleground state he won. He won the popular vote. Right. I mean, this is extraordinary. Yep. And look where we are right now.
Yeah. No, that's right. I think so.
And who's, forget the fanatics on Twitter, okay? And that's where his support is. How many of them are bots and bots talking to bots? It's not, it's in the, and I don't know if you saw it last night or early this morning, Trump's people came out with a poll. And it was just absurd. Absurd.
Yeah. So, yes. No, it was absurd. No, I think that's all right. And his destruction of MAGA is itself just fascinating. I mean, he came into office. He came to power. He came to prominence by saying no more of these wars in the Middle East. We've wasted $8 trillion in the Middle East. No more Bush and Cheney. All that's gone. Everything. And when you completely destroyed all that, and willfully, it's not like you were pressed by events that happened, and therefore you were pushed away from the agenda that you wanted to pursue, which that's happened in politics. But in this case, this was willful. This was a decision on his part. Then I don't know how MAGA recovers from that.
Well, and George, the never Trumpers are now his inner circle.
Exactly. That's right.
Mark Levin was a never Trump.
Mark Levin was absolutely never Trump. Absolutely never Trump. He was ferociously anti-Trump in 2016, as was, of course, Lady Lindsay. So, these are the people that you embrace, and the people that you attack ferociously, which Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massey, the very people who are MAGA, who identify as MAGA. So anyway, our time is up. So thank you very much, everybody who joined us. Thank you very much for all of your questions and comments. And above all, thank you for those who contributed to the tip jar. The dogs, they're not very good at expressing gratitude, but I tend to express it for them, even though they don't like it when I speak on their behalf. Yeah, you don't speak for us. But
Apple's eyes are doing this. Is he? Why are you talking about me?
But anyway, we'll be back next Monday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, and please join me for my solo tomorrow at at the normal time. So remember, if you like the Gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye bye.
We almost.